Today we are going to start general physiology. So in our general physiology, our first chapter is functional organization of body and the control of internal environment. So first let us start with homeostasis, a very simple lesson. So homeostasis, we know it's nothing but the maintenance of constant condition or steady state. Means everything should be constant, especially in the internal environment. So what is this internal environment? Internal environment is nothing but the extracellular fluid. So what is this extracellular fluid? First we need to understand the intracellular and extracellular fluid. So intracellular fluid is nothing but the fluid which is present inside the cell. In the name itself you can understand. And the extracellular fluid means the fluid which is present outside the cell. So why we are saying to maintain the constant environment in extracellular fluid? Because you know every cell, almost every cell in our body is floating in our extracellular fluid. So first, if the extracellular fluid is having a constancy, of course, even in our extracellular fluid, we know we have a interstitial fluid, we also have a plasma and also our blood. So whatever this fluid, first if it is constant, because all the cells lie in it, so first if it is constant, then we can say our body is healthy and also everything is in constancy. So this is what mainly is said by homeostasis. So we'll here understand about negative feedback, positive feedback mainly. These are the main concepts in this lesson. So what is this negative feedback? There is a feedback which decreases the output of the system. So here negative feedback means by examples we'll understand it better. So example, you can take increase in the secretion of hormone, mainly decreases the secretion of that hormone. So what is this? For example, if we have high level of thyroid or any other hormone, so whenever that specific hormone is very high in our blood, then what happens, or in our extracellular fluid, right? So whenever it is very high, then it decreases by negative feedback, that it gives a message to the brain, or hormones are released mainly from our pituitary, right, from our anterior pituitary, posterior pituitary. So it gives a message to that pituitary like don't now produce more hormone, because already hormone is more in our blood, so please stop producing hormones. So like that this message is carried to our brain. So this is nothing but the negative feedback. So by more examples we will understand it clearly. And next, coming to positive feedback. Positive feedback is nothing but the feedback that increases the output of the system. So here, like in the name only you can understand positive, negative. Negative means it's stopping, means stop that production of hormone, like that. Positive means it's saying to produce more hormone, like that. For example, in the case of injury, whenever there is injury, it causes to bleeding. So whenever there is bleeding, we know we need to clot that immediately by our clotting factors. So the clotting factors gives a message that to increase more clotting factors, so that easily now we can clot that, or we can heal that injury. So that is what about positive feedback. So, and one more important point which I have found in our textbook is nothing but RBC. So RBC, we have about 25 trillion in our body. This is of only one type of cell which is most abundant, single type of cell which is most abundant, and all the other cells are about 75 trillions, that is all other types of cells which perform different functions of different types. So in our entire body, totally along with our RBC and other cells, we have totally 100 trillion cells. So in our body we are having about 100 trillion cells. So next, coming to extracellular fluid. So extracellular fluid is nothing but internal environment, just now we have discussed. So and 60% of the adult body is completely filled with fluid, and inside the cell, as I said, intracellular fluid. Outside the cell, that is about 1/3 of outside cell in the spaces, that is the extracellular fluid, in constant motion throughout the body. Of course it will be in motion, constant motion, because fluid, right, it has fluidity. So of course this extracellular fluid is mixed with blood, tissue fluids, and it can easily diffuse by the capillary walls, because for example, if we draw a diagram, you can easily understand. For example, this is our blood vessel, and this is our interstitial fluid, that is outside the cell, and this is the cell. For example, this is one cell. So inside the cell, this one is the intracellular fluid, and this is the interstitial fluid, that is between tissues, other cells, right? Interstitial is also of course extracellular, and this is a blood. Inside blood, we know we have plasma. So this capillary wall is actually porous, so that plasma and interstitial fluid both can easily cross the membrane and get mixed. So what we are saying, that extracellular fluid is mainly made up of interstitial fluid, plasma, and an intracellular fluid is nothing but within the cell. So this is how we need to understand about extracellular and intracellular fluid. So as all cells lie in our extracellular fluid, so it is called as internal environment, or also called as milieu interior. So this milieu interior is a term which is 150 years old term which is given by 19th century great French physiologist who is called Claude Bernard. And extracellular fluid. So what is this extracellular fluid actually means? It is made up of what substances? It contains high amount of sodium, high amount of chlorine, high amount of bicarbonate, and also contains many nutrients, like because we said this is the main internal environment, so it should provide all the nutrients for all kinds of cells like oxygen, glucose, fatty acids, amino acids, carbon dioxide. So all these are abundant in the extracellular fluid. And the intracellular fluid mainly contains potassium. This is very important. So you can remember like our body is like full of ocean or like full of salty water. Inside salty water we have a cells which are having intracellular fluid. So that intracellular fluid is made up of mainly potassium. So our cells is mainly containing inside more potassium, and they are floating in a salt water or oceans. So intracellular fluid mainly contains potassium, also magnesium, and also phosphate ions. So now let's see the homeostasis definition, which is mainly given by American physiologist Walter Cannon. He says that all organs function to maintain this homeostasis, because homeostasis is nothing but to maintain the stability. Of course, every organ in our body needs to be aims to maintain this homeostasis, that is stability. So disease, if easily understood, whenever there is a disease, then there is disrupted homeostasis, because whenever disease, that stability is gone. So pathophysiology is a branch which mainly explains how physiological process can alter in disease or injury. So extracellular fluid transport. So this fluid, extracellular fluid, is transported mainly by means of movement of blood. Movement of blood is also considered as extra fluid transport, because as I said, blood is also on blood, of course, mainly the blood plasma. Plasma proteins are not soluble by capillary, that we need to remember. So the movement of blood in the blood vessels is also one kind of extracellular movement, and also movement of fluid between the capillaries, and also intercellular spaces between the tissue cells, as we discussed in the diagram. And next, blood pass entire circulation only in 1 minute whenever we are at rest. It takes 1 minute, and it moves 6 times in a complete circulation in 1 minute when when a person is extremely active. So this much fast our blood moves 6 times in our whole circulatory system just in a minute when we are extremely active. So that is what, when we are extremely active, our circulation will be very well maintained. So the blood, blood past capillaries, it undergoes continuous exchange with the extracellular fluid. It occurs between the plasma and the interstitial fluid, and also it fills the intercellular spaces, that is in between the cells also. This interstitial fluid is present. And by capillary, all capillaries are permeable except the plasma proteins, because plasma proteins are very large, so they can't be permeable. And next, coming to extracellular fluid. So as we said, plasma and interstitial fluid, they are mixed and maintain the homogeneity of extracellular fluid throughout the body. So let us see the regulation of body functions. So here we have mainly a nervous system and hormone system. So let us see, nervous system mainly contains sensory input, central nervous system integrative part, and a motor output. So the sensory input mainly detects the state of surroundings or the state of body, and the central nervous integrative, as the name only can understand, brain and spinal cord integrate all these substances. And the motor output, finally the output which get out, that is the signals are transmitted by this part to carry out the one's desires. So we have important system in this nervous system, that is our autonomic nervous system, which mainly operate at the subconscious level, and also it controls the internal organs like heart pumping, GIT movement, secretions by many glands. So all these are mainly controlled by our autonomic nervous system. Now let us see hormone system. So 8 major endocrine glands are present in our body which secrete the chemical substances. Those chemical substances are nothing but hormones. So these hormones are transported by means of our extracellular fluid. That is nothing but, especially the blood plays a main role in transport of hormones. We know this. So which mainly regulate our cell functions, because these hormones get an act upon the specific cell or specific organ and thereby cause the metabolic changes. So example, you can take thyroid. So thyroid increase the rate of chemical reactions in all cells, and insulin, insulin controls the glucose metabolism, adrenal cortical hormones which mainly control sodium and potassium ions, and also the protein metabolism, and the parathyroid hormone controls the bone calcium and also phosphates. And hormones provide the system to regulate the complement and also sometimes complements the nervous system. And the nervous system, it regulates the muscular secretory activities of the body, all those things. And remember that hormone mainly regulates the metabolic functions of our body. So next, coming to protection, in protection we have our immune system, mainly a WBC, tissue cells from WBC, thymus, lymphoid node or lymph vessels, which mainly protect us from different pathogens like bacteria, virus, parasites, fungi. And this immune system mainly distinguishes our own cells from the foreign cells. Whenever we can distinguish our own cells from the foreign cells, so that we can attack on the foreign cells and protect our own cells. And also substances and destroy the invaders, mainly by phagocytosis or by producing the sensitized lymphocytes or by special proteins. Example like antibodies, we know our plasma cells produce antibodies and destroy and neutralize the invaders. So this is just an introduction lesson, very simple lesson. So integumentary system, we have skin and appendages like hair, nails, glands, which may cover, provide the cushion effect, protect us, deep tissues, organs, and also provide the boundary between the internal environment and outside world, right? Because this integumentary skin and appendages mainly protect us, protect the external environment, means any invaders to come inside into our external parts. So next, coming to importance, integumentary system is mainly important for temperature regulation and also for excretion of waste, and also provide some sensory info between the body and the external environment. So skin constitutes about 12 to 15% of our body weight. Next, coming to reproduction. So reproduction is actually not a homeostatic feature, but it maintains by homeostasis, like by generating new beings in the place of those who are dying. And also all body structures are organized mainly to maintain the automaticity and also continuity of life. So continuity of life is the main process of reproduction, we know that. And next, we move into control systems. So control systems are most intricate one in a control system, that is most important one is a genetic control system. We know it can control both intracellular and extracellular functions. So like examples, you can take a respiratory system is in association with our nervous system, which mainly regulates the carbon dioxide in our extracellular fluid. And the liver and pancreas regulate the concentration of glucose in extracellular fluid. Kidneys mainly regulate the concentration of hydrogen, sodium, potassium, phosphate and also other ions in our extracellular fluid. So increasing body temperature like from 11 degrees to 7 degrees above the normal, it causes viscous cycle of which it increases the cellular metabolism and destroys the cells. So acid base balance also is important. It should be normal pH 7.4 and the lethal values are about 0.5. And potassium decrease, if the potassium decreases about 1/3 of the normal, then it may lead to paralyzation or paralyzed because of inability to carry the signals in the nerves. And if the potassium is increased, that is 2 or more times of the normal values, then it causes tetanic contractions of muscle, that is mainly due to increase in nervous signals in a peripheral nerves. Next, glucose is decreased by one half of our normal, then it causes extreme mental irritability and also convolution sometimes. That's why if we not eat well, we can get mental irritability. And it's coming to absence of these controls, serious body malfunctions or sometimes even death may occur. So now let us see the characteristics of a control system. We have mainly a negative feedback and positive feedback. So let's start with negative feedback. So most systems follow this negative feedback. Example, whenever in case of carbon dioxide concentration, if there is high amount of carbon dioxide concentration in our extracellular fluid, then our body adjusts itself, like it forms a negative feedback to increase the pulmonary ventilation, so that most of the carbon dioxide get out by our ventilation, so that finally the extracellular fluid concentration of carbon dioxide decreases. So this is how negative feedback acts like. For example, if there is too much low carbon dioxide concentration, then it gives a negative feedback like to increase to our brain to increase the concentration of carbon dioxide. Or whenever there is high BP, then it gives negative feedback to decrease the BP. Or whenever there is low BP, then it gives a command like to increase the BP. So this is a negative feedback, like it is in opposite direction. If there is more, then we need to decrease. When it is low, then we need to increase. When it is high, when we need to decrease. So this is like opposite effect. So what is this gain of control system? It is nothing but the effectiveness of the control system to maintain the steady state. So for example, if the blood volume increases in a person, if we give high amount of blood volume to a person, if his baroreceptor is not properly functioning, then it leads to high amount of increase in blood pressure, about like from 100 mm of Hg to 175 mm of Hg. If this same amount of blood volume is given to the normal person, where the person have normal baroreceptors, then only pressure increase will be only 25 mm of Hg, which is an error. That is, by this we can say that 100% our control system is not effective. There is an error of 25 milligrams. So the correction is of about 50. That is, before you can see if there is no baroreceptor, from 100 directly increasing to 175. But now from 100 it is just increasing to 125. That is, there is 50 difference between the if there is no baroreceptor and presence of baroreceptor. So by this we can say that our control system is not 100% effective. It shows an error of 25 in this case. You can see, so we have a formula like gain is equal to correction by error. So here you can see the correction is 50 because the difference is 50 and the error is of plus 25. So here plus 25 and minus 50, we get the gain of minus 2. So minus 2, there may be increase or decrease in BP if the control system is not functioning. So the gain of body temperature control is exposed to, for example, we take another example like gain of a body temperature control, then exposed to cold, then we get the gain of minus 33. So by this we can say that temperature control is having a more gain when compared with the baroreceptor control system. That is, temperature control system is working more effectively when compared with baroreceptor control system. Next, coming to positive feedback. So positive feedback is always unstable, so it is not most common in our body, and it can also cause sometimes viscous cycle and also death. So but positive feedback in correlation with our negative feedback, it can be effective and also useful, but alone the positive feedback is never useful. This we need to remember. For example, we know heart pumps 5 liters of blood per minute in a normal person. For example, if a person is bleeding about 2 liters of blood, that is by some injury or anything, then we know the blood pressure or the arterial pressure decreases, so the flow to the heart also decreases, and now the heart is weakened and the pumping of the heart is now decreased because by coronary arteries the blood supplying to the heart is decreased. So what happens is like this, as blood flow is decreasing, therefore what happens is this cycle continuously repeats and finally person death may happen. But if we take one more example, like if the positive feedback is overcome by the negative feedback, then what happens, the number of deaths means there is no death. Example, if a person bleeds only 1 liter, then the negative feedback is coming into action here. It controls the blood pressure, it counterbalances. So you can see here the negative feedback is like a repair system. It is controlling, it is recovering the patient but not causing death. But the positive feedback alone may cause for sure death. So it may cause also viscous cycles, but sometimes the positive feedback is useful. We'll see in the further examples. So you can see negative feedback, it controls the BP, it counterbalances the positive feedback and the person can recover now. So this is how the negative feedback is very important. So let us see when the positive feedback is useful. For example, in blood clotting, as we said, multiple enzymes, clotting factors are activated by positive feedback, so we can stop the bleeding by the clot. But sometimes this may also go out of hand, like unwanted clots also continuously forms, so it may cause acute heart attacks inside, especially in the atherosclerotic plaque. Already if the plaque is present and there again number of clots are increasing, then in the coronary artery, coronary artery mainly supplies blood to our heart, so this coronary artery may get completely blocked and it may lead to acute heart attacks. And useful process is one more is childbirth. So in childbirth our positive feedback is valuable, like uterine contractions are increased and the baby head is so that easily pushed through the cervix. It gives the signals to uterine muscles and also to the body of uterus to produce more powerful contractions, so thereby easily the baby can be get out or it can be easily delivered. So next, coming to the generation of nerve impulse. In generation of nerve impulse also, because sodium, we know about sodium, potassium, ATPase, all those we'll read further. Actually what happens is whenever we give a stimulus, sodium enters into the membrane, so it changes the potential. Actually first the potential will be in resting membrane potential. In resting membrane potential, always remember inside the cell will be negative and outside it will be positive, but because of sodium entry it increases more amount of sodium by positive feedback. So what happens is, as all sodium, we know sodium is positively charged, so inside the membrane now it is turning into positive, that is nothing but forming the action potential. So like this many action potentials are formed and easily signals can be reached by nerve impulses. So this is here the positive feedback is useful. So we see here that even in the useful positive feedback, there's a part by the negative feedback. So as we said, alone the positive feedback is never useful. Even there is a hand of negative feedback in every positive feedback. So in clotting, the maintenance of the normal blood volume is done by our negative feedback. And in nerves also negative feedback take place in formation of impulses. So brain uses a principle, that is feed forward control, to cause a required muscle contractions, that is mainly sensory nerve signals from the moving parts. They apprise the brain and correct whether it is right or wrong, and the brain correct the feed forward signal which is sent to the muscles, and next time what happens is this movement, which movement is required. So next time our muscles give the signal to the brain that which signal they want, so it says them to produce to the brain. So this is called adaptive control, because here you can see our muscles are giving signal to the brain that what kind of response or what kind of movement they want. So here it is like adaptive, means it is adapting according to our movements which are required. So this is called as adaptive control, and it is a delayed negative feedback. Why it is delayed? Because first time it is coming as whatever it is created, but second time it is adapting and it is coming, so it is delayed process. This is a delayed type of negative feedback. So remember that adaptive control is a delayed negative feedback. And extreme dysfunction of homeostasis may cause death, and moderate dysfunction of homeostasis may cause sickness. So if it is moderate, sickness; if extreme, cause death. Even if this dysfunction in homeostasis, still it try to work out by means of other functions, because every organ is aiming to control the homeostasis. So even if there is moderate dysfunction of homeostasis, all other functions try their best to maintain a homeostasis. So this is all about our first lesson of our physiology. This is very simple introduction of our general physiology.